Science. Paranormal. Drinks. Three tortured souls. Entertain, educate, recreate, and intoxicate.
Hey,
Hey,
what's up? Oh my goodness, we're back. We're back.
it's another
It's
month
okay.
already.
I
Damn.
know. It went by pretty quick, especially when it's like you guys are like, what's the topic? And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, this whole plan to be better prepared with a month. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it didn't work.
I'm
Did
up
not.
next, I do believe. So
Yeah.
the Tuesday
already
before the
started.
next show, I'll have a topic for you guys.
Yeah, sure. Hey, Bob.
Right.
Bob's in the house. We got a couple people watching. So tonight we are going to talk about the Philadelphia experiment because I failed to get a guest because we were going to have a guest. We were hoping to have a guest. Let me put it that way. We were hoping. I reached out, but I haven't heard back from them yet. So maybe next month somebody else will get or Tim, you'll get a break. Easy
Cool.
show if we get them. Hey, Daniel's here.
Hey,
Robert.
Daniel.
Hey, Daniel.
Up. So we're going to talk about the Philadelphia experiment, and I'm going to give you just I'll give an overview. I didn't actually find a story to read off. I'm just going to go from memory because honestly, that's probably what we all have. We have that kind of story in our heads about this already.
Yep.
So I'd like to start there and then just break it down and see what we can find. So basically, the story as I remember it, and this is from like reading websites, and I think In Search Of did an episode with it,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean various other shows. So basically, in 1943, I believe October 28th is supposed to be the date in the Philadelphia Naval shipyard that the USS Eldridge was docked there, and they were apparently part of a secret experiment about invisibility, trying to make it invisible, trying to make the ship visibly invisible. And I remember hearing things like big electromagnetic motors and shit like that, just generating these massive fields, and that there's a bunch of details, and some of them have like a green glow coming from the ship or surrounding the ship, and then others I've heard like there's some kind of force field around it, which is actually interesting because when we can get into it later, but this, I believe the description of these events was the first time the term force field was used.
Really?
That I when I looked it up and again, I'll go through it in a little bit. There was a lot of words that came into being or coined for this whole evolution of this conspiracy or event. Mothership, like that. Mothership was the first time it was used was in relation to this, which is really cool. I was like, holy shit! All right, I didn't know that.
Cool.
So anyway, the goal was to make it invisible, and apparently it did go invisible. The crew became invisible. The ship became invisible, and somewhere along the lines, it teleported. It teleported down to Norfolk, Virginia, down to the Navy yard down there. And this happened apparently in a flash. Like it was down there, it showed up for a little bit, and then it disappeared from there and ended up back in Philly. And when it came back, there were stories about crew members infused into the ship, like part of the walls and sticking out, and like I think it's depicted in the movie. The
I remember
movie
that
came out. Yeah, I remember seeing parts of
Yeah,
that.
I remember seeing that. Yeah.
Hell.
Great movie.
Yeah. So yeah, that happened. And apparently, like there was all kinds of sickness and things with the crew afterwards. But it kind of that's the story I remember. Are there other things you guys remember? Parts that I might have left out, or maybe versions?
No, honestly, the crew members half in and half out of the walls and the steel. That's what I remember, which makes a good story that keeps it going. Honestly,
Right. And there were some stories about trying to figure out how the ship got to one place or the other and why it was docked. So we're going to get into this a little bit. But I guess before we get into it, any kind of opening statements? Like, Dave, you want to make any more comments about?
No, I think you summarized it pretty well, and those are the stories I remember. The green glow, the ship being transported somewhere else, disappearing. People ended up, some of the crew being embedded between like decks of the ship, embedded in the walls. Really, when you're a kid watching that, traumatic stuff, but great movie. But it, you know what, it, to me, it's interesting because it shows, and I'm sure you'll talk us through this, single source, not a whole lot of support anywhere else for it. The ship wasn't even where they said it was supposed to be. Not even sure it was in the dock at the time they said it was supposed to be. And people, to me, just kind of took it, ran with it, and it all blew up from really one single source.
Right.
And it led to a really good movie. So,
yeah,
that's it.
Yeah. Tim, anything else to add?
No, I wish I could remember. I know it's not In Search Of, but it seems like the first time I heard this, it was on like a show like In Search Of, but not as cool, obviously. You just don't get cooler than Leonard Nimoy on a show.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. But it seems like I was a kid or much younger, and just, you were always, for me, I was like, if there's a teleportation machine made, like I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Then you see this and you're like, nah, fuck that. I ain't doing that.
You end up in the middle of a steel wall.
Yeah.
That.
I think one of my first, I guess, not interactions, but exposure to teleportation was The Fly. And yeah, I didn't want anything to do with it. I mean, Star Trek, yes, the teleporter was always there, and that, honestly, it's weird. It's like that seemed like okay because it was sci-fi. I knew it wasn't real, but for some reason, like The Fly, because it was, I guess because it was on Earth, I was like, well, that's different. That's here. I don't want anything to do with it. I don't want to be a fly.
Nope.
No.
That was nasty too.
Yeah, nasty shit. So yeah, we can get into some of the history of it and look at it. I can throw out some things that I learned today because I did a Tony Stark and just read the shit out of everything today. Starting this morning, I just went crazy with some stuff and went down some Tim Vicker rabbit holes. And tried to climb out and almost didn't make it. So basically, from what I gather, let me get this right here. So there was a book that was published in 1955. This book, and it's called, what is it called? The Case for the UFO, Unidentified Flying Objects, by a M.K. Jessup. So this was published in 1955, and soon after, I think in January of 1956, a copy of this book was sent to the Office of Naval Research. And it was sent in a regular manila envelope, and it had writing. It had notes all inside of it. On the envelope itself, it said Happy Easter, which is, I don't know why that detail sticks out to me, but it's just like, it's funny.
Happy Easter?
It said Happy Easter. That's what all the reports said.
That was the code name?
I guess so. But the notes that were the handwritten notes inside the book, from all the reports that I see, it was 3 different shades of blue ink. And that led to the idea that it was 3 different people that were arguing or debating or discussing, I guess, the notes and everything in the book, because they were answering each other, and sometimes it would be crossed out by one version of the, or one shade of blue. Something was shaded, something was written in a shade of blue, and then it was crossed out by a different shade of blue with notes written in later. And then they actually had conversations where somebody would say something and you would get a response directly to that statement from somebody else. When you read it, it's a lot of gibberish. To be honest, it's
Shocking.
just like someone reading a book. Like I can speak from experience, because I do this sometimes. I read some, like, a ghost hunting book that's just so freaking annoying that I'm writing in it going, this is dumb. This is stupid. No, you don't do it this way. And I'll write in there.
So that's apparently a new way to get published. Take a book, write a bunch of your random thoughts in the margin and send it in.
Yeah. So I'm not going to be good with names. I'm not going to even try it, because there were so many names associated with it. It's not that they're hard to pronounce.
Oh, okay.
There's just so many. And the story just weaves through a whole bunch. So apparently the person that, let's see, I'll give you one name, Admiral N. Firth. So he was the guy that received this book in the mail, and he didn't think of anything of it, didn't care. So he passed it off to 2 other officers that worked under him, and apparently they had an interest in UFOs and stuff like that, and they thought this was kind of cool. So for various reasons, nobody really knows. There's a lot of conjecture. There's a lot of, like, assumptions of, oh, they did it because, maybe the scientists in the military could use some of the notes to further their research, or they were just UFO buffs and they wanted to spread it around to their friends and go, haha, look at this. We got a cool thing. They took that book, this one, to a publisher that was under military contract and said, we want this reprinted with all the notes in it. So what the publisher did was actually contact the original publisher and the author here and got permission to do so. So they reprinted the original text in black, and then all of the notations were printed in red. So it was a very limited run, because back that we're talking 1950s here. Then. Yes, it was pricey. 2 inks, holy shit, no. So it was only a very limited run, and from my understanding, most of these copies are lost. And then let's see, thanks to my CFI libraries here, it was. I've
got library envy now.
Yeah, you do. You should, because you know what? It's awesome.
His library's bigger than yours.
By far.
Let's see, 1955 that it was reprinted by the military people. And then I think 1973 it was done by, what's the name? I have the name here. Hold on. I'm always trying to I tried to keep track of all these names and it was just impossible. Hold on. Dead air. I hate dead air.
While you're looking, I have a question.
Gary Barker. Gary Barker. Okay, good.
Okay.
What's your question?
Well, my thought, what I was going to ask for later, but you didn't want to do dead air, but the publication of that book was, did you say 55?
Yes.
When was, instead of just looking it up, like when was Roswell?
Pretty much right around Fort. Was it
60? Was it? Wait, Roswell?
No.
I'm kind of wondering if part of the lore of 1947, Bob.
Okay, thank you, Bob.
I'm kind of thinking of part of the lore, and one of the things that might have been a carrying factor of keeping this big was it was in that little pocket of atomic energy, kind of, the forward thinking, the amazing things that could be possible, just because it was such a big spring forward in energy and a science boost. And then you had science fiction come along. This story in 55 sounds like it would fit perfect.
Yeah. And it's building up. It's building up. We're not even at, because when we get to the Philadelphia experiment, we have to go back in time.
Of course we do.
Because 1955, you got to go back to the future. Come on, Marty.
Great,
Wow.
Scott.
That was great.
Let's make like a tree and split.
So anyway, all right. So this was republished, and it was a limited run of 500 copies. And the gentleman that republished this, the Barker guy, he was a big UFO buff, huge UFO buff. I think he had a magazine called Saucer. I think it was Saucer or Saucery.
How many copies did they do of that? Is it like just over 100 or so?
This, he says in here, it was 500 copies of this. That was
500, really? Only okay. That's more
and
than
this
I
is
thought.
one of them. So we have one. It's got the reprint with all the notes in it, and it's actually sectioned out, like, because all the notations were printed in red, but they do clarify in the
That
margins.
must be off, because I thought I read somewhere it was like 120, 130 or something.
That
but
might have
it's
been the original.
the
by the two
original
officers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this was done a little bit later. And then after the initial book and all this happened, the author of the original book here received 2 or 3 letters, depending on how you count them. So we'll say 3 letters from the person they think sent this book. And there's a lot of, I'm not going to bore you. They're long letters. I think you can find them online, but they're in here. I read through them all. I don't recommend it because the guy is crazy. Like when I say crazy, I'm just.
Didn't he have some legitimate psychiatric concerns?
Yeah, I think so. There was some, because his name was Carl M. Allen.
Oh, one person.
Yeah. So that's who they think wrote this, because he signed it. He signed it by 2 different names. One was like Carlos M.
But his given name was Carlos Miguel Allende or something.
No, that's his. So I'm gonna try this. Please don't yell at me if I screw this up the way I'm gonna say this. His given name was Carl Meredith Allen, but he lived for a time in Mexico, and he claims that while down there, friends or coworkers Mexicanized his name to be Carlos. What was the first? Carlos
Miguel.
Carlos Miguel
Allende or something.
Yeah, Allende. So that's how he signed the first letter. But the second letter, he signed it by his real name. So, but it's from the same address. He put the same address on there, so we know where he lived.
Kind of like who was Jerry Rivers?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, this guy wrote these letters to the author of the original book, pretty much telling him what he thought was wrong with this UFO book and what he thought was right, and basically saying that we're going to have ships like that. It's going to happen. You have no idea what else is coming, and then warning him to stop this research, because he actually goes into the description of what would become the Philadelphia experiment, saying that there was a ship. He mentions the Philadelphia Navy Yard, and he mentions how it became invisible, and that it teleported to Norfolk and then went back, all within, as he says, like a couple minutes or less.
Where in Norfolk did it go? To the naval base in Norfolk?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it just magically knew how to pop from one naval yard to the next.
Exactly.
Fascinating.
So yeah, I mean, he wrote those letters. He apparently got a response from the author, because they had a back and forth a little bit. And then what happened there? So I guess from here we actually have to say that the event took place in 1943.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're going back in time.
Yeah.
And I want to make it clear that in these letters, in this whole book, the ship is never named. The Eldridge is not named in this book. Even the designation, what is that one? DE something. I forget what it is.
The designation of what? The ship?
The ship. Yeah.
It was a destroyer escort. I don't know what the
it was a destroyer class. But I have so many names here. Let me see. Destroyer class. I know it was a destroyer class, but it had a DE 173. That's what it was designated as. But he doesn't mention that until later on. And actually, it's when this book comes out, Philadelphia Experiment Project Invisibility.
Who is that by?
William Moore did a lot of the research, but I believe
remember Charles Berlitz, you know where he's from? Bermuda Triangle.
Yes.
Oh,
he says it a lot in here. A lot, dude. He says it a lot.
Scooby Clue number 1 drops.
There's
been a lot of Scooby Clues here already.
Yeah. But he goes into it. He met Carl. He met Carl and interviewed him, and that's when the designation, the DE 173, comes up. So he didn't actually say it by name. He didn't call it the Eldridge. He gives the number for it, and then later on, people start looking it up and find out what ship it was.
Wasn't there another ship, though, they claimed that may have been next to it at some point? Then they said there was experiments going on with another ship next to it that may have played into the story here. The Timmerman? The USS Timmerman?
Timmerman.
They were doing, what was it? Let me find my notes.
Oh, wait. I think I know what you're talking about.
Of the destroyer, the USS Timmerman, where they were trying to do corona discharges, part of a degaussing experiment.
Degaussing, yeah.
To basically try to make it not detectable by radar.
Right.
But it was supposedly parked right next to this one.
I think because it was docked, there is some of the notes here that I have. And again, like I was telling these guys before the show, I found the ship's logs for 2 months, and there were 90 pages that I was going through, handwritten notes, trying to decipher some of the stuff. So it definitely says in the ship's log that it was docked right next to other ships.
But was it really docked there at the time they said it was?
So
was it really?
So when we fast forward and start looking, the date given is October 28th, 1943.
Right.
And when we do look at the log, so this is not just the log, this is the war diary of the USS Eldridge.
Which is pretty much close to a Bible on a ship of what's written record.
Yes. This was all coming from the National Archives. I was able to download it all today, and I have it all in a binder here.
Of course.
I have to put it all together, but it's all 90 sheets are in there for now. And I'm looking right now. It's Thursday, October 28th, 1943, and it is moored at New York. It is New York Navy Yard. That's where it's at. And it actually says berth 17, Pier J. So it gives you the exact location where
so they were a little bit off with the Philadelphia.
Little bit. And you can go through these logs and see like the day before, day after, pretty much that whole time there. Because I mean, it's a new ship. It's honestly a new ship. It went through. It was commissioned, and I think August of 43 is when it was set free. When it was like, okay, you're out for service.
Yeah.
Because it had just been built. So it wasn't that long. It was still up there. It was doing maneuvers. It was doing calibrating because there's entries in here about calibrating the
Mhm.
compass on it, the
Mhm.
magnetic compass, making sure it was right,
Mhm.
loading on armaments and ammunition and food, water, stuff like that.
Mhm.
You go through, but that's it. There's nothing else. It doesn't say anything. It actually, I could not find Philadelphia mentioned at all. So,
Of
uh,
course.
yeah. Um,
Is there anything about this that adds up at this point?
so it doesn't. And I thought,
Um,
go ahead, Tim.
to boost that, I'm on historynavy.military.
Hmm.
There's a couple that I read that through that. And here they talk about the war logs. And during this time frame that you're talking about, because it's referencing the Philadelphia experience, it says that Eldridge was never in Philadelphia.
Right. Yeah, it's just there's nothing here. And I was like, all right, well, maybe there's something with this Carl guy. And I started
Mhm.
looking into him and saw that he was in, I believe, the Marines. Again, I have so many papers in front of me. But I do have I do have a certificate of Seamen's service. Where this is from, it's his log, Carl Meredith Allen, and it's his service. And it says October 14th, 1943 to November 20th, 1943, he served on a ship called the SS Andrew Verruths.
Yeah, I'm reading that too.
Yeah.
For
Yep.
Ruth's.
And then, he served as an ordinary seaman's acting able seaman. And then
You'd be hell in the Navy.
know.
From
from there,
you'd be kicked off.
dude,
Like
I work for a
Beavis and
company
Butthead at
called
Navy.
Siemens. You know how many jokes I got? So he was on a ship, and it's not what kind of ship was it? It was not a military ship. I think it was more of a, what was this called?
Merchant ship.
Merchant ship, yes.
Civilian merchant ship.
Yeah.
Damn, already getting
And then
started.
I was like,
Stutter.
all right, well, maybe he saw the ship. Maybe he saw them, because I know that they had convoys going on. And I did read in this book, so many books I read today. They were talking about how the Eldridge was sent on a convoy to protect it, to do protection route, or he was guarding a section of I guess the route, and that he was on something called GUS-22, and I didn't know what that was, but it's the name of a convoy. So I'm reading this, and I'm reading at the ship's logs, and I see the logs say UGS-23 for these dates where both ships were supposed to be in the same area, because this guy is saying that both ships were in the same area at the same time, and actually that the Eldridge was part of the convoy where the Andrew ship was also. So they were in a convoy together.
Okay.
So I looked it up. I looked up what these codes mean, and one means a slow westbound convoy returning to the U.S., and the other one is actually a slow eastbound convoy that departs. It's called Hampton Roads, which is where the Norfolk naval base or naval shipyard is. So there's actually like a big mistake in this book, because he has the wrong convoy.
Oops.
Yeah, and I looked it up. I'm reading the logs like the whole week, and the Eldridge, which was with a completely different convoy, going the different direction. One was going back to the U.S., the other was going away from it. So there's a big fuck up here, and I haven't read that anywhere yet. So I'm like, whoa, I wonder, somebody had to see this. So there's a big mix up, and I don't think they were in any convoy together. I'm kind of thinking just I don't know how these numbers came up. I don't know where this Carl guy got all this information from, unless he just read about it. Maybe he read something about the ship launching or going into service or something like that. Because there's really, when you look up these convoys, there are certain ones that are mentioned because something happened during them, but none of these that involve these two ships are mentioned. So there's just nothing there. There's nothing that's that puts these two ships together, even though that's what this mysterious guy says.
Yeah,
So,
and they're
Oh boy.
for their records, they have that of course they call it the Master of Andrew for that hard word for the ship.
Andrew Faruseth.
Yes. So I guess the master of that ship, I could imagine, would be like a captain. In 1943, categorically denied that he or his crew observed anything unusual while in Norfolk.
Right.
And Eldridge and and the other ship were never in Norfolk. God bless.
God
Norfolk.
damn, dude.
I started drinking
all these words.
This is good. I'm already buzzed. They were never at the same place. They were never in Norfolk at the same time.
Right.
Nothing adds up.
Nothing.
But then you take all that and what you said into consideration, and you look at one thing I found with a historian, Mike Dash. Basically, his conclusion was Jessup didn't do any research, none at all. And most of this is based on one person who got it wrong. None of the stuff was in the right place at the right time that it was claimed, as you just went through. So really, there's nothing to it.
And
if you would spend a week researching it, like Kenny did,
or
a couple
that's
hours
just today,
couple hours each day for a week.
This is all just today.
And there's been other podcasts that have talked about this and had people on. I won't name them because it would be embarrassing to name them. That they still perpetuate this. I mean, the interesting thing to me is how the fuck do you still perpetuate this stuff?
Well, the Amityville.
Yeah, I know that's another one.
It's easy to repeat.
Shit.
But
I
know what? I think that's what.
The biggest thing that could have happened is maybe there was some confusion with these degaussing experiments to try to make them to get rid of any residual magnetic field that makes them detectable by radar. That's about the only thing you could potentially maybe say. But there is no way in hell any of the other stuff adds up. And honestly, at this point, if the military was studying whatever, let's be Star Trek geeks, cloaking technology.
Absolutely. Why not?
Cloaking technology. How many years ago? 80 plus more years ago. Wouldn't you think it would have eventually come out at this point? Because look at when was, the stealth fighter or the stealth bomber or F-35s. How long have they been worked on? Eventually it comes out and you see them. You would hear something.
Yeah.
I mean,
it
doesn't make any damn sense.
You have to think too, like this allegedly took place in 1943, but no one heard about any of this until 1956, 57, when these letters were written, or this
and here's
book.
Another thing. If sailors were somehow transported and they got stuck in the walls of the ship, you don't think a family member or anybody would have said anything by this frickin' point?
Yeah.
Well, even if someone would have survived and got transported back, somebody's talking. Yeah. Somebody's getting drunk and going, dude, let me tell you what happened this weekend.
Dude, I was in Philadelphia, went to Norfolk, and then I was stuck in a wall, man.
We were all like, man, I'd like to have some chips from Norfolk. And he's like, yeah, okay, watch this.
So, a bunch of seamen stuck in the wall.
Speaking of that, here is newspaper clipping. This is from 1999. And this was a reunion of all the living crew members of the Eldridge.
Really?
Let me guess. They didn't talk about this.
They talked about it.
Well,
but
not
not
as
in a good way.
Not as reality, though, right?
The caption here says USS Eldridge veterans laugh about the Philadelphia experiment. Mike, Ray, they name a bunch of people here. Can't escape the myth. I have not the slightest idea how these stories got started, but they talk about it in here. And I mean, even like this headline here, it says legend keeps on reappearing, but they're laughing at it and they're saying absolutely nothing happened. We weren't in Philadelphia at the time. We were never in Philadelphia. So that's the crew members of the ship telling you, no, we weren't there. Nothing happened. So, I mean, it's I guess, you know what? I was thinking about this today because all this reading, and I kept thinking, like, how the hell does this happen? How does this happen? And then I'm thinking, well, of course, this is like, and I call it the David Roundtree effect, because, you know, you can put stuff out there pre-internet and it's so hard to research. When you're talking about 1940s, 1950s, it's not easy just to you know, go online and let me look at records. Let me see what's there, because it didn't exist. So it's so much easier to put some bullshit story out there.
Yeah.
And even the when Carl, our guy that made up this entire story, when he talks about it in here, when he's interviewed about it, he tells you straight up that the first story that he relates is that he saw a man on the dock. He was in Norfolk, but he saw a man on the dock, not on the ship, but on a dock, disappear and then come back. And then he starts talking about seeing like a force field. But in between that, he says, I don't remember the date or which dock I was at.
Because I was drunk.
Yeah. So like, yeah, I read that over again. I'm like, wait, he's telling you he doesn't remember.
Kind of like how you get drunk on your birthday, right?
That's
Yeah.
right. Been there.
Speaking of
How'd I
which,
get here?
Speaking. Somebody's
happy birthday.
Oh, thank you, bitch.
Happy.
Is
Aw.
this is 51 this year?
51. That's right.
It only gets better from there.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't really keep track anymore. I have to think about it.
Probably a good
now.
idea.
You know, yeah, that's right, Bob. Yeah.
Kenny is the truth.
It's a pickling experiment
just-
with rum.
Yep.
Like you see this story, when you really dig into it, you see it evolve. You see the evolution of the
Which
details.
is the interest to me is the interesting part of it, is how it evolved, how it started, how it evolved, and how it still persists.
Yeah.
It's a pretty interesting part of it, as far as being able to figure out if there's any truth in it or not. It honestly, it took me like a half hour.
Yeah.
You start
Yeah.
reading, you're like, nope. Okay, done.
It's just, I think, and again, we're going back to the time where it was much easier to create this kind of story.
It was
And
back then, but now
yeah.
everything's archived, digitized, and
Yeah.
on the web, and
I
really
found
hard.
everything. I
Really
mean,
hard.
I love being able to see. So let me share this, because I'm sure people would be interested in seeing this. At least I hope. Window. Where is this one? That one.
God, we hope it isn't Kenny in his birthday suit.
Nope. Took them off. So here's the log.
Oh, that's awesome.
You know, this
That is
handwritten-
so
here you
cool.
go. Thursday, 28 October, 1943.
Let's see, any reports of it disappearing?
Nope.
Mm.
Nobody's
See,
stuck in a wall.
Moored as before. And they're
But-
going around, they're doing their rounds, steaming various courses and various speeds while standing down the East River, down New York Harbor, and through the what is that? I don't know what that word is. Hudson? No. Hudson is mentioned later on, that they were on the Hudson River.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's all just basic
Interesting.
stuff. There's not much there, but I have, like I said, I think you can see it here. Let me see. Oh, what happened? Did I do that?
Wasn't me.
I didn't mean to do that. Let me see. Let me share that again.
Tim's always
Here we go.
proud when he doesn't mess up.
Here's all the pages.
Oh, that's great.
So this is October and November every day. It just goes through, so I can look it all up and just see what there is. And it tells you everything, and it's boring.
Fascinating.
It's all boring. The only exciting part was like at one point they dropped 7 depth charges, which is mentioned in here. They're like, oh, on this day they had to do this because something, he what's the word? Sensationalizes it. But when I read the report, it was more like they were testing it.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't actually doing anything. They were like, oh, and then at one point they investigate some strange lights. They go out, they find it's fishing boats. Then they come back, and that's it. There's really nothing. Maybe they had the wrong ship. The thing is, though,
some other whack job would have wrote a story on it at this point.
Like this guy also, one of his descriptions when he sees this. So Carl, we're talking about Carl that witnessed this. He gives a description of the ship, like has this big force field. It's a big bubble that comes out, and the light inside is slightly darker than everything else. And when it goes invisible, the ship goes invisible, but it still has the depression in the water where the ship is still is. You can't.
Kind of like it's kind of like Wonder Woman in the invisible jet. They can still see you.
Yes, exactly, exactly that. Oh, there's another paper. Oh shit! I have so many papers.
Donna's comment: Carl was high off his ass.
I think so.
That might not be too far from the truth.
I mean, he was hospitalized because I do have his record that he applied for after World War II or during it. He applied for benefits because he was in the hospital for like a year and 20 days. And then, I mean, I probably should apologize. I shouldn't have called him crazy because he did have some things wrong. His family, later when they interviewed his family, they said he had like rantings. He had books and papers, and he just went on and on and on about different topics, and that he had no education in. He was just writing. I think he was just reading random books and either regurgitating them. Because there is, like I said, there was one paper that I was trying to find. It was an earlier story from like 1901. And when you read it, it's almost exactly the description he gave about the green mist and people getting sick and stuff. And I'm reading it going, this is the same story. This is where he got it from. Holy crap.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, although it's sounds like a great story, and I remember growing up and being a kid and thinking that's awesome. We teleported. There were dudes stuck in the wall and I couldn't get out and all this stuff.
That does sound more like LSD.
Yes, it totally does.
It does.
But yeah, in the end, there's nothing to support that it happened at all. That the ship was never in Philadelphia. The Carl that made up the story, again, he was on the ship, on a merchant ship, but he didn't have any contact. And it certainly didn't say anything. I mean, if he saw it, everyone else on that merchant ship should have seen it.
Look, I'm telling you, someone's going to talk. Somebody would have talked.
And wasn't a military ship, so it's not like you can be ordered to keep quiet. They should have been able to go home and tell everyone.
Not after 80 some years and your family, and there's no way everybody would have kept quiet at this point.
Right. There's no way.
And we probably would have hints of that technology being used actively in the military at this point.
Yes. Oh, I found it here. Philadelphia Inquirer, Monday morning, August 1st, 1904. electric cloud enveloped ship, caused Mohican's sailors to become like animated magnets. So cool. They
Animated
talk
magnet.
about the compass was set a spinning, and iron chains could not be lifted from the deck.
Cool.
And it's so I'm just gonna I'm not gonna read the whole thing because it's kind of long, but it's basically saying that a strange metallic vapor which glowed like phosphorus enveloped the entire vessel and looked like it was on fire. The sailors ran around, looked like glowing phantoms. The cloud had a strange magnetic effect on the vessel, for the needle of the compass revolved with the speed of an electric motor, and the sailors were unable to raise pieces of steel from the magnetized decks. Shortly after the sun had gone down,
believable then.
Yeah, and this is like a real account that they claim happened. Everything was tinged with a strange glow. It got so bad they couldn't see each other. Invisible.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah,
and familiar.
This is cool. I'm gonna post this on our Facebook page.
Yeah, that's cool.
So people can read it because it's really interesting. Just the similarities. But yeah, I guess that's it. I mean, I stretched it out for 47 minutes.
Good job.
I took another angle.
Oh, good. Good, please. We're gonna hit an hour. See, Dave, we're gonna do it.
We're gonna hit the hour.
This I wondered, when you think about teleporting a ship, the first thing I think of is how much power would you need to generate?
Don't you mean energy?
Oh, it's correct though. Well, fuck it.
Yeah, you're right.
How much energy or power would you need to disassemble all the atoms or whatever it does and send them and reassemble? Then send them back.
1.21 gigawatts.
Yes. But
nice one.
I did look it up, and all I got was there was a entertaining University of Leicester that they, I guess, when you have a lot of really smart people that are really bored, they decided to kind of figure out what it would take to
take the USS Enterprise.
No, just to actually teleport a human being. So they computed it, like they figured it out, or at least what their hypothesis is. Being human, you're tearing down your cells, turning the cells into data, then restructuring, all that. Now there are some numbers and letters that are going to happen here. The letters, I don't know what they mean, but what they came up with was you would need 10 TN, and I tried to Google it while we were talking. I couldn't find what that measurement is. 10 TN gigawatt hours of power to teleport one human. And they don't say the size of the human, but I guess they're just looking at something normal human. So I really would like to know what that is, the 10 TN gigawatt hours. I was trying to find...
Are they talking about... Yeah, no.
You would require stupendous bandwidth and roughly 10 TN gigawatt hours of power to teleport a human being. And I can only imagine what that would scale up to. Now, my second thing was, if you had that much power and you focused it in one specific area, what would happen to that area? Like the heat from that much, what would that do to the surrounding areas? I mean, I'm sure it'd be a lot.
I just want to know how to
tons of power consumption or something. I mean, that's the only thing that
what is it again?
TN?
10 TN gigawatt hours of power.
It's obviously a fuck ton of energy because nobody knows what the hell it is.
Well, I couldn't find out what that abbreviation was.
Bob said it's TN stands for tons of TNT.
Oh.
Wow.
10
or
tons
Terra Newton is what Daniel says.
Tara Newton. I don't know. What is?
That's a lot of energy.
Can we make that? Convert TN to gigawatt hours. Oh, ton. All right. So yeah, ton of TNT to gigawatt hours.
Mm-hmm.
So that should be. It's two different measurements.
Okay, so this is what's a teranewton from what Daniel said. It is equal to 1 trillion newtons. That's a lot. Anyway,
Okay.
That's a heck of a power bill for the taxpayers to pay.
I just want to know how they generate it. Like, do you got a ZPM? You know, like any Starcade fans out there?
Thank you. Thank
You know
you.
what that means? Yeah. All right.
whole
Tesseract?
lot of magnetic coils on there.
You had to get all three
like,
Tesseracts.
That's a lot of a lot of power. I mean, and it's just on the surface when you don't think about it, it's a cool story.
Right.
But in the end, it all falls apart as soon as you start. Like Dave said, you know, when you just spend some time, half hour, no, less, you know, you realize, okay, these things don't add up. And again, it's much easier for us because anybody looking this up in 1955 or 1960 are going to have a lot more trouble. They're going to have to go through the government departments and
I'm sorry, and do you think they're going to do this at a port that's publicly visible?
No. Yeah, I know. I mean, I looked it up.
Top secret Navy experiment. Let's do it where everybody can watch.
So I don't know exactly where the Norfolk base is.
Here.
Or not base, Naval Yard. But I know the Philadelphia Navy Yard.
It's not at Norfolk Naval Base, but across the river from downtown Norfolk.
Yeah, your turn. Norfolk.
God damn it.
The Norfolk Naval Shipyard.
Okay.
Not at the Norfolk Navy. Yeah, that's because base just comes out and that it's all about the base. That's my mistake. So let me see.
That's still not New York.
Yeah.
Or Philadelphia.
Oh, wow.
Norfolk Naval Shipyard in Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm looking at. And that is, let's see. It's right. So it's in Virginia.
So still doesn't add up.
I guess I want to see like in relation to population, like where it is, because the Philadelphia Navy Yard, I-95 goes right next to it, but that was not completed until.
Wouldn't you think that amount of energy created would cause some sort of electrical disturbance across the general area?
That was that's
Yeah.
What would happen to the surrounding area with that much? That's kind of my thought.
What is that? Dolce RL? Is that what the name is for that person? This person? So can you tell us, is like how close to residential areas? Like, is this an area that's easily seen by everyone in the area? You know, like at least the Philadelphia Navy Yard, I know if you didn't have 95, it's kind of like out there. There's some business or like warehouse, and it's more of an industrial area down there, but it's still within view.
But you would think with that amount of power, energy, that they probably wouldn't do that when the ship's sitting at port.
Right.
You'd probably go out in the middle of the damn ocean. I would think. I don't know.
I think if a ship just popped out of nowhere, just popped into existence in your port.
And what about the sound? Like the sound of, I mean, surely that would cause heat, which would cause air disturb.
Or if it, I mean, now we get in the fun part of speculating. So when it came back to Philly, apparently all the crew members were infused into the walls and stuff.
Mhm.
But if it disappeared from here, like I'm not Philly anymore. If it disappeared from Philly and popped into existence down there, wouldn't that mean the bottom of the ship would be infused with the water? Like, wouldn't it just suddenly have the entire bottom of the ship filled with water?
But wasn't one of the reports that even when it went invisible, you could still see the indent in the water?
Yes.
Well,
But
obviously they
that's-
compensated for the difference in metal and water. Come on. Obviously.
My bad, Dave.
Come on, man.
I mean, yeah, it was there, but then it disappeared. And when it came back, all of when the crew, I mean,
It's
obviously
fun to
they didn't.
speculate, but it didn't happen based on the reports of locations and people. And
This is like this part of the show is like the Mythbusters part where they test the myth and it all fails, and at the end they're like, well, let's just get like 3, 4, 10 times the amount of dynamite and really blow it up just for fun. So that's why I'm going with this. Like, should have been filled with water. It should have sank right away.
So on another note, if you want to cook a chicken with one slap, you would need to generate the speed of 3,726 miles per hour, and you could cook a chicken with one slap if you could get your hand going that fast. This is what it's like when I'm in a rabbit hole. So now
you all got a prime example of Tim in a rabbit hole.
Now I got to find out like what kind of sound would that make.
Oh my god! Well, you'd have the sonic boom.
Absolutely.
I think so. All right. Now we're going way off the rails.
Okay.
All right,
reel it back
close
in.
out the show.
That's it. Close it up.
So I mean, let's go around closing statements. Dave.
It's a great story. It's fun. It made for a great movie, but again, single source, nothing adds up. Potential credibility problems. You don't see any log of it. There's nothing that indicates any of this happened. So didn't happen. It's a great idea. It's a lot of fun. We're talking about semen and slapping chickens. Okay.
Yeah. You never know where we're gonna go.
Great story. Good movie. It's fun to speculate and think that, you could do that at some point, but it just doesn't add up. Bottom line.
Right. Tim, what do you got?
I think it's just a great story. I think it piggybacked right at the perfect time with the here. This is our Kenny. This is our rescue fail. His name's Kenny too, which I always get cracked up when I yell Kenny. I think it happened right at the right time, right along with the atomic energy, the nuclear, everything was just perfect. Roswell started happening. All these things started happening right around that time. It fit right in. I'm sure that people love the story. It's probably a fantastic story. I mean, you could imagine the beautiful footholds for conspiracy theorists. It's great. I don't think it happened. Here in West Virginia, and I know Daniel will probably have this memory as well, but we have we had a bunker that was built under a resort for the House and the Senate and the president, just in case of a nuclear attack. And it was considered extremely top secret, and nobody knew about it. Nobody. It was people sworn to secrecy. Just amazing. I can remember as a kid growing up with my grandma going, "Hey, there's a bunker underneath Greenbrier, right?" Like, we knew about it, and and they put a lot of effort into making that top secret, because that, in the case of an attack, is where the people that run the country were going to go survive. I would imagine that type of responsibility would have been pressurized into some top secret. So I'm sure if this was true and it did happen, that I'm sure that people would be sworn to the utmost secrecy. But if the whole crew of the whole crew and another ship sees it and they like see each other for a little bit and wave and then go back, it's like the perfect prank. Anyway, just hey, let's go fuck with the guys down in Virginia, hey, and then leave. Somebody's talking.
Yeah,
somebody's talking.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. It's a cool story, bro. But other than that, it just falls apart. Everything falls apart, and I think it just. I think it got legs. Oh, Greenbrier. Yeah, I want to go there. I think it really got traction when you have your Bermuda Triangle conspiracy guy writing the book about it, and elevated it to more of a newsworthy, tabloid newsworthy status, and it just grew from there. People latched onto it and thought it was a great story, and nobody looked it up. Nobody researches it, except the select few that really. Because I did find some. I actually, Dave, you'd be proud. I found a paper, like an academic paper in a journal about it, and I was so proud. I was like, Dave's gonna love this. I actually got a paper.
Cool. Very nice.
It's so there have been people out there looking at it and saying, "Oh, you know what? This shit doesn't work." So, but I thought it'd be a nice thing. Besides the, like I said in the beginning, I was trying to get a guest on, but that fell through, and this actually happened to be on my shelf where I could read it, and I was like, "Oh, we haven't talked about that. Let's get into that one." So,
good stuff.
Yeah. So, you guys got anything coming up? Tim, you got anything coming up?
I'm hosting a show next month. First Wednesday with two of my friends. It'll be my turn, so I got to come up with something. Maybe we can work on what we can cook by smacking it, and we can.
Tim's gonna talk about jerking his chicken.
We can see what we can cook just by hitting it. Who knows?
Okay.
Other than that, that's all.
Whew. Dave, what do you got?
Same thing as Tim. I'll be on that show.
Smacking his chicken.
Smacking his chicken.
I'll let you manage that yourself. Thank you. Besides that, finishing touches on the paper we've been talking about, which will be out in the next issue of the journal. So we may actually be able to talk about that by next month, Tim. If it gets published, you might have a topic.
Cool.
Yeah, I might save that for you, though. I mean, that just seems more appropriate.
Yeah.
Oh, you're the stats guy, so you can do it.
I know. But only after you told me all my answers were wrong and then did them right.
Anyway, yeah. So that's fun. Cool. Good stuff. Kenny.
Let's see. What do I got? I got a few things coming up. I'm going to a psychic fair, not this weekend, but the weekend after.
Do they know you're coming?
I knew that.
I don't think they do. Not yet. But I'm going to meet some of the girls. Oh, the Paranormal Peaches. You guys know them.
Oh, yeah.
Some of them are going, and so we're going to meet up with them, hang out.
Speaking of which, where is our fourth tortured soul? She never.
I didn't see her come in tonight. She's fired.
That day was very, very judgmental.
I was hoping she'd show up because apparently we have an assignment for her in order to be a real tortured soul.
We do.
Oh,
yes.
That's harsh,
but it's
fun.
Tough.
It is.
She will come back dumber.
May 12th to 14th, I'll be in Rochester, New York, doing the Rochester Parafest, which looks to be like an all-around. It's not just a paranormal conference. It looks to be like a more of a all-around kind of festival. There's a lot of different things. The paranormal is just a small part of it, but there's going to be some TV celebrities there, not Paris celebrities, but more like I know they have a few people from that show, Naked and Afraid. So from my understanding, they're not going to be naked though. So I don't know if you were getting excited about that, but I just wanted to give you a heads up.
Not really.
No, not.
Oh, I forgot one thing.
What? What do you got?
Mothman Festival, September.
Yes.
16 and 17. Right now, we're still planning on going.
Good. I have it on my schedule. So I'm planning on going down there too. Actually, I'm thinking about making it a longer trip because I want to hit the Flatwoods to see the Flatwoods monster thing. Because I know that's like
you guys are like in my neighborhood. We gotta let Daniel's got to.
Yes. Yeah, we'll
Mhm.
make it an event. Ooh,
Mhm.
road trip. What else do I have? May 22nd here at the Center for Inquiry. We're gonna have a talk. We're gonna have a talk about it's Leo Igwe. He's coming here from Nigeria, and he's gonna talk about humanism, human rights, and I think partly like witchcraft and stuff like that. I'm
Oh,
not
yeah,
sure
yeah.
exactly the
Is that
what he's
somebody
gonna be talking.
Ben knows? Or
Ben
is it-
knows him. Yeah.
that's
Ben
I've
does a
read some
lot
of
of
the stuff on that.
yeah,
That's a
he raises
great.
a lot of money. This
That's
send over
awesome.
there.
That's awesome.
So he's going to be here. I'm really excited. I think actually, yeah, it's May 22nd. He'll be here.
Cool.
So I'm actually going to try and grab him during the day and do an interview here with him before he does his talk. So
Nice.
got that. June 8th, back here at the center, Melanie Tressett King, friend of mine. She's been on my show a couple times, hung out with her. She's going to be talking here and actually visiting with us for a couple days. So we're going to be hanging out, causing all kinds of trouble, but hopefully working on some projects too. And then what else? Oh, July 14th to 16th, I'll be in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania for the Gettysburg Battlefield Bash. And see who hates me that week. Who wants to beat me up this time? Because
All right, look, we gotta
always one.
look. We gotta work this. Like,
You need to take some Red Bulls and just stay up.
look, man. I was like, "You got this." Every time. Like
Every
the
time.
good thing is nobody messes with you while I'm there.
Yep.
The Peaches had your back last time. I think
I know.
he got lucky that they didn't jump on his ass.
I know, because they're
Mhm.
scary.
But everybody just waits. They're like, "Is Tim
Very
asleep?"
scary.
Yeah. Okay, let's go beat up Kenny.
September 16th is the Mothman Festival on my schedule. And then October 26th to 29th is SciCon in Vegas. So I'll be
Cool.
out there for that. And then lastly, November 3rd to 5th is the Para Unity Conference in New Jersey. So I'll be there for that.
Dave, I heard the eye roll.
Kumbaya, motherfuckers.
Tim, you should come out.
I should.
Your buddy's going to be there.
I wonder if he'll like stay and talk to me instead
I'm
of
going to
walk
ask
away
him.
from
I'm
it.
going to ask him your question. I'll be like, "Hey, so a buddy of mine wanted to ask you something." He'll see what
Remember,
he says.
you turned and walked away from him.
All right, let me get this queued up.
All right.
Don't mess it up.
for our outro video. Which one? Ending video. There it is. Oh, this is a short one. I have a whole bunch of videos for us. I don't know why. Oh, I have a monster.
I obviously
opening,
did not have
opening,
enough to do over the last couple of years.
ending. All right, guys. So anyway, everyone, thanks for hanging out.
Yep.
Appreciate it. Have a great rest of the week, and that's,
See you in a
never
month.
stop learning. Take it
See you in
easy.
a month.
Bye.
Thank you.